My name is Brian. Chapter 11 is the last chapter, and it is titled The End of the Joker's Club. In our house, Tyson is the first one to wake up. On Sundays, when he sees that my parents are still sleeping, he climbs the attic stairs to get me up. But this Sunday, I'm already awake and dressed. I bring him back down to my parents' room and rub my mother's arm to wake her up. Mom, I say, I gotta go out. Here's Tyson. She squints up at me for a second, closes her eyes again, and then puts the blanket back over her head. Go away, she mumbles up from under the covers. Dad, I say in a louder voice, take care of Tyson. My father sits up on his elbow. It's 6 a.m. You take care of Tyson. I have to go look for geese for school. I told you last night. It's for homework. His voice is groggy, but his tone is stern. Brian, you're taking care of Tyson. We're sleeping. Look for your geese later on. They're not going anywhere. You can't find them so much unless they're eating, I tell him. They eat early. He's not listening. He's back under the covers too. Me go look for goose birds, Tyson says. Me go. I take Tyson to Hillary's room. Waking Hillary up on a Sunday morning is harder than convincing a sleeping old volcano that it should erupt. And if you do manage to wake her up, she's as fiery as a volcano. I think about this as I'm going into her room, turn around, and leave. Go look for birds, Tyson insists. I put on his jacket and take him outside where Dan and Isabel are already waiting for me. The half moon is still bright over our house. While Isabel takes Hillary's bike out of the garage, I get out of my mother's bike and stick Tyson in the seat. We put on our helmets and we're off. Good morning, moon, Tyson chants. Good morning, sky. He keeps it up as we pedal down the street. Good morning, bike. Good morning, birds. Good morning, goose birds. Tyson's okay, Dan tells me. Isabel's leading us to a farm field that she's convinced will be a breakfast spot for Canada geese. As we bike along dirt roads, we watch the sun, a watermelon pink sphere, rising over blue-gray hills. After a couple of miles, we come to the field. We find a hiding place for ourselves in the bushes. The first animals to come are deer that feed on the old corn stalks. We count 13 of them. Dan tapes that for our movie too. Next, he tapes 2 squirrels chasing one another around and up a big tree. Good morning, goose birds. Good morning, goose birds. Tyson is pointing at the sky beyond the field, and we all hear the perfect soundtrack for our nature film. A honk, hink, a honk, hink. Dan keeps the tape rolling as about 100 Canada geese land in the field. We watch the meet, and Dan zooms in on a goose who's standing guard. After a minute or so, I whisper to Isabel, Follow me, I have an idea. I tell Dan to hold his post and to keep taping no matter what happens. Isabel and Tyson and I creep behind the bushes that surround the field. When we're on the opposite side, we slowly walk into the field. A sentinel goose sees us, warns the others with a hiss call. In an instant, the flock is up in the air, honking as they fly right toward and over Dan. Goodbye, goose, my brilliant little brother calls out. Dan slowly lowers the camera and zooms in on Tyson, who's waving up toward the sky and shouting, Bye-bye, goose, so long, see you later. We sit on a rock and take turns watching the playback in the viewfinder. We congratulate each other and Tyson on a great video, but Tyson doesn't care. He's screwing up his face in a grimace and pulling on my hand. Juice, juice, he whispers. Let's all go to my house, Dan says. My dad will make us breakfast and we can watch our tape. Me too, Isabel asks. Sure, why not, Dan says. His father makes awesome pancakes, I tell her. While Dan's father's cooking and Tyson is slurping down a second glass of juice, Isabel motions us to follow her into the living room. Here's your money, guys, she says as she hands us each an envelope. I look in the envelope and count 1 5 and 1 5 singles, $10 total. Dan holds up the stack of bills that are in his envelope. You got this from John, he asks her. Sort of, she says. I picture Isabel holding John in a wrestler's arm lock, demanding that he give us our money back. How, I ask. Look, it's your money, now you have it. Dan's got it figured out. You took it from under the shed yesterday when you said you had to go outside. She nods. They'll know we took it, I say. You didn't take it, she says. I took it, and I'm not afraid of those bozos. Breakfast is ready, Dan's father calls. We don't talk about the money again until we've brought Hillary's bike and Tyson back to my house. That whole time I'm thinking about Isabel and the money. The last thing I want is for the kids at school to think that Isabel is like my bodyguard, taking care of my problems with John. It's a ridiculous situation and will make Dan and me the subject of about 10,000 jokes. As Isabel is rolling out her sister's bike to ride on home, I tell her, Isabel, I'm not going to let you take the rap for getting us our money. Me either, Dan says. She gets on the bike. It's okay, she says. I told you, I'm not afraid of those guys. She rides off down the street on the little pink and violet bike. We aren't either, Dan calls after her. We should write them a letter, I tell Dan, and leave it under the shed. Let's be totally upfront about it. Dan agrees, so we sit on the steps and compose the letter. Dear John and Richie, we, the undersigned, Dan and Brian, do not want to be in a club with you anymore. The Jokers Club is different now for 2 reasons. Number 1, you brought other people in without discussing it with us. Number 2, you broke number 2 of Operation JDBR when you turned the jokes against the club member, Brian, and said that you should get points for that. Since we've quit the Jokers Club, and as far as we're concerned, Operation JDBR is over, and we have to decide what to do with this stash of cash. If we divide the money by points, ending with the time that you, John, started making jokes on Brian, we would have earned much more than half the pot. But we decided to just take what we put into it. 5 weeks at $2 a week equals $10 apiece. Just because we aren't in the club with you anymore doesn't mean that we should be enemies. We can still be friends, kind of, just not in a club together. Sincerely yours, Brian A. Toomey and Daniel R. Chester. P.S. There was only $23 in the pot, even though there should have been $40. Sorry, Richie, but we took what was ours. Are you scared? I asked Dan as we sneaked through the woods toward the hideout. Yep, he answers, but not as afraid as I'm going to be when John and Richie read this. He pulls the letter out of his pocket. Let's just get it over with. We run the rest of the way, just as we stuck the folded letter next to the remaining stash of cash. In the tobacco tin, a gunshot, bang, goes off at the roof of the mansion. We don't look up to see who fired it. We don't stop to hear what John is shouting at us. We do get out of there as fast as humanly possible, which is pretty fast. Well, Brian, my father says at dinner later that night, did you get that American history test back yet? I nod. So how'd you do? My mother asked. Okay. I look at the mound of mashed potatoes and the fried chicken leg on my plate. With a sinking feeling in my empty stomach, I realize that I'm not going to enjoy my dinner. What's okay, my father persists. What was your grade? An A, I hope. I got a C, I mumble. I thought you were supposed to be smart, Hillary says. Don't pick on him, my mother scolds. How come, my father asked me. Didn't you study enough? Another C, and it's goodbye karate lessons, young man. Yes, sir, I answer. I don't bother telling him that I studied more than I've ever studied for anything in my life, that Miss Crandall helped me during resource period, and that Mr. Dithers let me take as long as I needed on the answers. I don't even tell him that Mr. Dithers wrote very good in the margin next to my essay answers, that I made all my mistakes on short answers like, what year did the Revolutionary War end? That I could never remember the answers to some memorization questions, even if I had stayed at my desk all day and night. I flatten out my mashed potatoes with the fork. Don't be discouraged, my mother says. You'll get over this dyslexia business. It'll just take time. I look at her across the table and say, I'll never get over it. Dad didn't. Neither did Grandpa Al. If you're not going to get over it, why are we bothering with all this tutoring, my father asked. I can't believe he says this. He's not bothering with anything. It doesn't even cost him any money. I'm the one who has to stay after school. I'm the one who has extra homework. I'm the one who's beginning to wonder if it's worth it. Rain, rain, go away, come again another day. Little Tyson wants to play. Hillary is teaching the rhyme to Tyson as we're eating breakfast the next morning. I love that it's raining. Rain means I won't be riding my bike, which means I won't have to see John until we're in school. Dad, I ask, can you give me a ride to school? Okay, he says, but I'm leaving right now, so put a move on. A minute later, I'm watching the wipers fan the rain back and forth across the windshield of the pickup and fantasizing about what John and Richie and their 8th grade pals might do to me. How brave will I be, I wonder, if John says the $10 has to go back in the pot and I have to give him $2 a week no matter what. Will they beat me up? Or put lit cigarettes out of my flesh? Maybe they'll threaten to shoot me. What if they say that they'll hurt Tyson if I don't pay him up? My father glances sideways at me. Why so low, Joe? He asked. Nothing, I answered. Your mother says I discouraged you last night about your schoolwork. I told her you're a tough kid and you can take it. I shift nervously in my seat. Is it possible that my father's going to apologize to me for being such a bully? So, can you take it, he asked. Take what? How hard life can get, he says. I only expect a lot from you because I know now that you can do it. So it's all right? I guess, I answer. We'll see. Hey, my dad says, here's that pal of yours. He swerves the truck over to the curb and comes to a stop. Move over, we'll give him a ride. I slide over to make room, but don't see which pal it is until the door opens and John gets in next to me. Thanks, he says to my dad. Nothing to it, my dad replies. I keep my eyes on the windshield wipers and none of us says another word the rest of the way to school. I hold my breath as John and I get out of the truck and start walking in the rain to the school entrance, but he still doesn't say anything. When he spots Mac, he gives me a little shove and says, If you tell, man, you're dead, and moves off. Mac is eyeing me suspiciously, not like he's going to kill me, but like he's a little bit afraid of me. That's when I realize that Dan and I have something to hold over John and his new pals, and maybe, just maybe, they won't be extinguishing red-hot cigarettes in our flesh. I run into the front yard to catch up to them. Hey, John Mac, I call out, wait up. They turn, arms folded on their chests, to face me. Yeah, Mac growls, what do you want? I fold my arms over my chest, too. I'm scared, but I still say what's on my mind. I'll forget what I saw you guys doing yesterday. I'll forget that you were fooling around with guns. But you forget all about Dan and me and don't give us any grief. None. Zippo. Not a bit. You're out of the club, man, John says. You blew it. You pathetic little worm, Mac says. Why would we want to have anything to do with you? You don't exist. Exactly, I say. We don't exist. I can't wait to tell Dan the good news.